Hey, how you doing? Hopefully you're having an amazing morning, evening, afternoon, wherever in the world you're choosing to tune in from. Number one, I'm glad you're here. I'm excited to have this talk today. And the reason I want to have this chat is I've recently had a bunch of people messaging me that are in a peculiar position. They're in a stressful moment of life, um, and they're kind of stuck. And specifically, they're stuck around money. And they're either in a position where they spent it all and don't know what to do. They're not earning enough and don't know what to do. But something along the lines when it comes to the topic of finances is causing them to be stuck. And so I sat down and I wrote, what are 10 money tips that could help someone really truly get this category of their life right in a way that they no longer have to think about it if they put the right habits in place. And so today's topic is going to be 10 tips on how to master money. And they're just simple tips, but they're things, if you do correctly, will put you in a really, really powerful position so that you don't have to constantly be worrying or stressing or freaking out about this topic. Okay, today's topic is 10 tips on how to master your money. And number one, there's a really important tip. And this is the same tip we give for business. This is the same tip we give for love and relationships, and it's the exact same tip we give for money, which is if you don't value it, appreciate it. If you don't value it or appreciate it or really give it the meaning it deserves, it'll soon be gone, and that's a problem. You know, if you don't value money, it will disappear quickly. And it doesn't matter how much you make, it will eventually find its way somewhere else to someone who actually values it. So number one, if you don't value it, it will soon be gone. Number two, it's not how much money you make, it's how much you keep and what you do with it to multiply it. What does that mean? Well, there's people like Floyd Mayweather. He makes a lot of money. I mean, this dude can make $100 million plus per fight. And then what happens is you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's rich. He's got $100 million in one fight. Oh my goodness. And what does he do? He goes and spends $120 million the next year. And guess how much he's left with? Negative $20 million. So how much does he really have? Nothing. He has a bunch of debt. And it's like, well, that sucked. Well, what about Mike Tyson? He's a good boxer. He made a lot of money. Well, he made a ton of money. He had all this extra cash. He let someone else manage it who did it in not in a good way. And now he's broke. He ends up with no money. It's like, what the heck happened? And so the perception is if I could just make $1 million, if I could just make $10 million, $100 million, $1 billion, whatever it is, you think it's going to solve the problem. But the truth is it's not how much you make. It's how much you keep. So after all the expenses are paid, after all the bills are covered, how much is left over? And then here's the big question. What do you do with it? Where do you put it? What do you do with it to cause it to multiply, to cause it to grow? So it's not how much you make. It's not the top line of your revenue. It's the bottom line of how much you actually get to keep. This goes for business as well. Number three, when you think about how much to keep, you want to ingrain this little phrase in your mind. And it comes from a book called The Richest Man in Babylon, which I highly recommend you go read. Richest Man in Babylon. And in this book, there's a little phrase that says 10% of what I make is mine to keep. So repeat it with me. 10% of what I make is mine to keep. Say it again. 10% of what I make is mine to keep. What does that mean? Well, it's going to fall into number 4, which is pay yourself first. Because you're going to have bills, you're going to have rent, you're going to have food money, you're going to have all these other expenses that pop up that are normal and natural. Everyone has them to some extent. But you got to say, okay, 10% of the top line, 10% of what I make is mine to keep. And I'm going to pay myself first. I'm going to take it off the top and I'm going to put it in my bank account and save it. And then I'm going to save and save and save. And once there's enough, I'm going to invest it into something so that it multiplies, so that money is working for me instead of me working for money. So 10% of what I make is mine to keep. Number 5, and I'm going to propose this one as a question. How much time do you currently spend each week studying ways to multiply your money? How much time do you currently spend each week studying, researching, looking up, Googling, reading about? How much time do you spend each week hunting for new ways to multiply your money, to invest your money into something that will multiply it? A couple people, obviously, are in the money game, 15 hours a week, very good. Here, for someone in the beginning, here's what I would say. Invest at least 1 hour a week studying and learning into ways you can multiply your money. Just 1 hour a week. You do it 1 hour a week, you're going to start to see some things that'll start to help you get good at picking where to put your money in a way that can help you multiply. Just an hour a week. Number 6, compound interest. This is your biggest friend when it comes to multiplying your money. If you took 1 penny and you doubled it 30 times, that 1 penny turns into $5.3 million by doubling the penny 30 times, which is amazing. You double a penny 30 times and you end up with $5.3 million. How do we get that to work for you when it comes to multiplying your money? How do we get your penny to double 30 times? Seems simple enough. How do we do it? If we could figure out a way to double your penny 30 times, you're going to have $5.3 million like that. So we got to figure out, how do we do that? Now, what's crazy is when you double it 27 times, it's only 671,000. So from 27 to 30, it goes from 671,000 to 5.3 million. We got to remember, the biggest growth happens towards the end of the curve. And that's very important. You got to remember, in the beginning, it only feels like it's growing this much. But after a while, oh man, it goes. And so you want to make sure when you invest, you think in that approach to realize the biggest, steepest part is going to be towards the end of the curve instead of the beginning. Number 7. This is a big one. This one hurt a few times. Avoid advice on money from people who struggle with money. This one hurts. There's a lot of people out there giving advice who live paycheck to paycheck, who are in debt, who are struggling to pay their own bills, but they got a lot of stuff to say about money. And it's like, hey, don't take advice from that person. You can listen to them and put it in the category of what not to do. But don't take advice from people who are struggling with it. Take advice from people who are mastering it, who are figuring it out and getting it right. Number 8, save up, if you want a goal in the beginning, save up 3 to 6 months of overhead in cash. Save it up, put it in a bank account, don't touch it. Just leave it there. And what it'll allow you to do is play the game of life without any stress, without any worry, without freaking out or constantly trying to figure out how you're going to get by, because it gives you that cushion that allows you to just play full out, have fun, and really go for it. Moving forward, number 9. This is a next goal. So 1, 3 to 6 months of cash set aside that covers your overhead. Number 9, when your cash flow from investment surpasses your expenses. So when you've invested in property, when you've invested in stocks, when you've invested in businesses, and the cash you receive every month or quarter or your yearly dividends, when that surpasses the amount of money it takes to pay your bills, your expenses, then you are now considered financially free. Oh, what a good place to aim for. Now, this is really important. If you want to get there quicker, you need to do number 10, which is keep your expenses variable and keep your income fixed. What does that mean? Consistent income that's locked in, that you're just every month it's coming in. You got a good solid income source and it can grow, but it's consistent. The other piece, variable expenses. Expenses that are not locked in, that you have the ability to bring down if need be to maintain a good margin on top of what your earnings are. So if you want to get to your cash flows, exceeding your expenses and have that financial freedom, then what we need to aim for is keeping your expenses variable and keep your earning fixed, your income fixed. So those are my 10 tips that can help get you in the right position to really master your money. In that, I would ask you, what is your favorite tip that has helped you to master your money? Those are my 10 favorite ones. I'd love to know. In the comment section, leave a tip that might help someone else that says, this is one thing I learned and I applied and it really helped me to master money in my life. Now, whatever that tip is, leave it in the comments so that someone else watching this can go find it, and maybe that'll help them more than my 10 tips, or as long as with my 10 tips. So I hope this is useful. Have some fun. I'm going to go have dinner with my wife, and I'll see you tomorrow for another talk on here.